There's someone who's trying to weaken our economy. Yeah, Donald Trump. Donald Trump. And Donald Trump, as we know, has put, as the Prime Minister just said, unjustified tariffs on what we build, on what we sell, on how we make a living. He's attacking Canadian families, workers, and businesses, and we cannot let him succeed.
Well, that didn't age well.
The next election, most likely. And they were down and out. Isn't that going to make them more hostile to us and possibly
I'd rather deal with a liberal than a
for China, closer to Canada, and that would really put us in a bind.
The conservative that's running is stupidly no friend of mine. I don't know him, but he said negative things. So when he says negative things, I couldn't care less. I think it's easier to deal, actually, with a liberal.
You want someone as leader of the Liberal Party and as Prime Minister who Donald Trump is afraid of.
I thought Donald Trump was afraid of the Liberals. Getting a little awkward over there, Liberals? Oh, March 19th, 2025, and oh boy, now what? First, you had Chrystia Freeland telling everyone that liberals are the ones Donald Trump would be afraid of, and then telling everyone that Trump wanted Polyev, wanted the conservatives because they're the most like him. And Trump just comes right out and says it.
Negative things, I couldn't care less. I think it's easier to deal, actually, with a liberal.
Jeez. Almost like they built their entire campaign on sand. Donald Trump's afraid of us. Donald Trump doesn't want to negotiate with us. Donald Trump doesn't want to deal with us. Don't blame us. Don't blame us. Don't blame us for the way this is going to go. Oh, and by the way, look at this poll. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh, that is not what I was expecting. Liberals. I thought you were ahead. I thought this was going to be an easy win. 51% of the vote, right? So why is all the money, all the betting being done on the conservatives? Are Canadians stupid? You know, if there's one thing a voter likes less than a politician, it's a politician who not only lies to them, but treats them like they're stupid. And I mean, side by side, you put an official 338 poll. This is, people use these as projections, but yet when you ask them to put money on it, everybody goes conservative. Why is that? Well, what's going on here? I'll tell you what happened. 10 years of manipulation, 10 years of lies, 10 years of being gaslit into agreeing with all of the policies of the Liberal Party that got us here in the first place. And now you've got a candidate who can't even put together a sentence. What do you want? It looks like Canada's done giving grace to lazy politicians, lying politicians, openly lying, and disdainful politicians who clearly hate the country, who want us to be someone else. When they were threatened to be part of the US, they went immediately to the EU. Oh, let's join them instead. And for the record, Liberals, I don't think your pundits are helping you much either. The amount of gaslighting they're trying, there's nothing Canadians hate more than being lied to, and you're just doing it openly. Run by a bunch of trained monkeys.
Conflict of interest.
Yes.
Trump spent most of his life in the private sector. There's no possible conflict of interest in your assets. It's very difficult to believe.
Look inside yourself, Rosemary. I mean, you start from a a prior of conflict and ill will.
What I'm about to show you is a reaction that had occurred to me, but I've never seen it played out this clearly. Watch Jasmine frame this, because if you're a guy and you're listening to this, you probably didn't even think of it.
Mark Carney did a few things that were so very significant. And as I always say, you can fool people for a while, but you definitely cannot fool them forever. And even CBC is starting to call this out with Mr. Carney. If you didn't watch yesterday's episode, I'll tell you one last time, please go and give it a listen after the 10-minute mark.
CBC is calling this out with Mark Carney now because the CBC's audience is primarily women. And they know what happens when men start talking like this to women.
Because it is so damning. The conflicts of interest we have uncovered, the potential motive behind Mark Carney. It's very, very eye-opening stuff. But let's get into this first. He has been very snappy with journalists when they ask him questions that he doesn't like being asked. So much for the party of feminism. By the way, I've noticed this. I don't know if you have, but he has routinely cut off, mansplained, as they call it, and been very cruel almost and snappy with female reporters specifically.
All reporters. But there's a reason the female reporters hear it more. Mark, you're burying yourself. You need better advisors, sir. Or at least you need to listen to your PR departments, because literally almost the entire liberal voter base is female. If they tell their husbands to start voting male, or to start voting conservative, your party's pooched.
Specifically, and he does not do that with men.
He does. But not like this. Not in a way that she'd notice. You can't talk to your voter base like this. You just can't. Liberal voters are primarily women of all ages, of all demographics, doesn't matter, but they're primarily women. On the liberal side, you have to convince women to vote for you, wives, girlfriends, and their significant others will typically go along with them. At least in public. Sometimes they'll vote differently behind their back, but that's not the point. If you want to maintain a voter base as a liberal, you have to show that you are capable and desirous of dealing with women politely and fairly. There's a sensitivity there that men just don't have. This is why Polyev is going over well with the male demographic, and the females are pulling back to liberal. It's you rely on that. You rely on that dynamic. That's why Trudeau did so well. He was able to keep that calm and have that conversation and at least show that he wasn't going to get angry and scary. Polyev has a bigger draw. The more Carney does this, the more he digs in and alienates his female voters, the less he's going to have. And that's why we've said for months now, at least since Carney showed up on the screen, that there's no way. There's no way. And it's funny how much a female voter will overlook. They'll overlook lie after lie after lie after lie after lie if you deliver it in a palatable way. And Carney cannot do that. Not only does he lie, he's also a jackass about it. And it's driving his voter base completely in the toilet. So it doesn't matter what the polls say. It doesn't matter what the polls say. It doesn't matter. Because when you call someone on the phone and you ask them, are you voting conservative or liberal? A liberal woman will say liberal. But as soon as she gets to the polls and she sees the name on the ballot and her candidate is Mark Carney, she might just vote conservative. Or not vote at all. Probably not vote at all. There's a level of pandering you do have to do. As a politician, you have to play to your audience. You have to. As a creator and a reporter, you can be as vicious as you want to be. But as a politician, you're dealing with the entire country. You're not just speaking to an audience, a particular group. This isn't a Reddit thread. This isn't a Quora page. This is a dynamic group of people who all have different needs and a desire to be talked to in different ways. If you're going to have this kind of tone change between the genders, you're going to need to frame it. Right now, I'm talking to men. Roar! Right now, I'm talking to women. La 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 la. It it sounds incredibly sexist, but you can see it playing out in this election on the screen. We've watched him. We've watched Carney give men a hard time on a regular basis. But on in a national interview like this one, just watch him just go after female reporter after female reporter. If you're a liberal voter, if you're a female liberal voter, you're like, what is this, 1930? Women can vote now, sir. You can't talk to me like that. He's scarier than Polyev. Yeah, he is. And even if you think he's as scary as Polyev, now you have to dig back into logic. This is where the brain turns on. They start churning the facts and they realize, oh, this ain't good. This is what you're actually watching is a divorce in progress. Right? That's what's going on here. You've got women will hold on to a marriage far longer than they probably should, trying to square that circle that the man they once were dedicated to may not be the man that she wanted him to be. And they'll hold on to that marriage. They'll hold on to that relationship. They'll hold on to that marriage, just hoping that he goes back to what she had perceived him to be. And when it doesn't happen, she leaves. That plays out in elections as much as it does in the bedroom. You remember a while ago, we talked about how the appeal of Carney was for women, particularly liberal women, was mainly the fact that he was rich and that you didn't see his wife a lot. There was an opportunity of attraction there, the attraction to the powerful man with all the money. And again, the initial instinctual reaction in the female brain is, ooh, opportunity. But guys who listen to this, think of the hottest woman you know. Think of the most attractive woman you know. Think about what happened to your attraction to her the first time you heard her speak. And then you downgraded your expectations, like by a couple of notches. That crazy hot scale exists for women too, just in a different way. And we're watching it. Instead of crazy hot, it's crazy rich. But there's only so much they're willing to deal with. Carney's crossed that line. Uh-oh, liberals. Now what? And that's the crazy part of this election, isn't it? How much the world changed over 2022 is still showing itself. The number of people living single, the number of ways my brains change, the number of people thinking about what they want now, what they need, what they're doing, what they're in times of crisis. Canadians think very much alike. They just get to where they're going in different ways. Whether you're a female or a male or a liberal or a conservative, it looks like we all agree that Canada needs something. What we're arguing about right now is the semantics of who's the best person to get us there. Liberals aren't doing themselves any favors with this candidate. I'm telling you, Pierre Poilievre might be scary in his delivery. Might be frustrating to listen to for some people who aren't used to hearing things delivered in that tone. But particularly to any women who listen to this, This is why the tone policing isn't a good thing. Pierre Poilievre is delivering a message in a useful way to a large audience. You're part of it. But he's speaking sternly and directly because he knows what he's doing, and he knows he can get us there. And if you break down his platform, top to bottom, you will not find a single lie. Not one. So if Mark Carney has put you on the fence, do a little bit of digging, and I swear to God, I promise you, you'll feel better about voting the other direction this time. Maybe in 8 years we'll feel different, but right now, Mark Carney is not what we need, and I think you're starting to see it. Welcome on board. All right, guys, have a good one.